afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. It is the Monday recorded edition of the Frontrunner Football Podcast as we now recap on anything that's kind of piqued our interest as far as local football is concerned. As we all know, COVID-19 literally has the world in a vice grip. And so not much has been happening, but we're looking for the little pockets of news or information coming through and other interest pieces that are doing the rounds. As always, I have my panel that joins me in Jonty Mark and Mazola Molefe. Gents, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's getting brisk these days, hence I'm looking like a young Eskimo. I see Mazola had a big jacket on. Let's see.
I still
No, he's cold. And then Jonty, you're white. You don't feel cold, so it's fine. Oh.
I just
No
went for
better
a
way
run
to
in my
start
back
the show.
garden, so yeah,
Oh,
the
did
blood
you?
is flowing.
Okay,
That's
there
it.
we go. There we go. That's the reason. Gents, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, let's have a look in terms of what's been happening of late on the news front. I mean, it's been pretty slow, but some of the interesting stuff. Jeremy Brocky had a Twitter Q&A recently. Did you guys take a squiz at his timeline?
Yeah, I had a look at a bit of it today. I guess it's the perfect time for players to do more Q&As than usual because they're sitting around at home and not really having games to play. Hopefully they're training on their own.
Right.
when was it, by the way?
It was on the 17th. So that's what, 3 days ago now? Yeah, I had a bit of a
Okay.
young Q&A online.
They
So one of
basically
the
said he's waiting for Sundowns to, if they're going to take the option to extend his contract.
Well, I was going to
Until
say
then.
that is the one thing that kind of came out of it is that, he reckons his hands are tied up until he knows whether or not they're going to extend that option. And so I guess the next question is, what's the likelihood of Sundowns exercising that option?
Look,
Well,
I think it would. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me start.
Go for it, Mazola.
Go for it, Mazola.
Yeah. I think it would be harsh of Sundowns to extend that option, unless they do to sell him for a cut fee. If you understand what I'm trying to say, he's their player after all. They spent a lot of money to bring him to Tourcoop, and to let him go for free obviously feels like isn't a wise business decision. But to keep him there almost kind of feels inhumane. If I can be a bit extreme,
Right.
He's been for a while, struggled a little bit, and then eventually went out on loan. Still struggled, and Mamelodi Sundowns aren't the ones to probably take back a player that struggled during a loan spell, and think maybe he could improve once there. You just never know. But look, I think very few people would think it a wise idea for Mamelodi Sundowns to keep him there. Yeah, sure, you can extend the option because it's in the contract and it's your prerogative to extend the contract, but maybe only to sell him for a fee, not a cut price fee. But to extend the contract and tell him he's gonna play, he must fight for his place. Yeah, that what would probably be to go a bit extreme and use my earlier words to say a bit inhumane to some degree. At least that's my point of view.
I mean, Jonty, it's tricky because it becomes a bit of a hard sell to move him on if he's not doing well at Maritzburg United. So something has to give. I figure it'll be a simple mathematical equation of his contract for the remainder of that year, should the option kick in, versus, obviously what they recoup and unlikely to recoup on a transfer fee. So I guess in the end, this might be just a mathematical equation that ends up giving us an answer as to where his future lies.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brocky is 32. He has possibly one more good contract in him with another club if he leaves. he hasn't had his best day. His best day is clearly at SuperSport United. Didn't really work out for him at Sundowns. It didn't seem like he was able to either. The tactics of Peter Mosimane didn't suit him at times, but also he certainly wasn't able to find his best form. And then at Maritzburg, he struggled a bit. Finally scored his first goal, but that was like basically a miss kick. But he's still got something to offer, I think. In terms of his contract, I think Mazola's correct. I think it would be wrong of Sundowns to extend it. I don't see how he can fit into Peter Mosimane's plans going forward. So if I would hope that Sundowns also might find a problem, obviously, with the transfer market likely to certainly be weaker.
Yeah.
To have less money in it in the next transfer window because of all the problems, all the financial problems caused by COVID-19. You'd think that there'd be few clubs willing to pay a transfer fee for a 32-year-old. So you'd think that the decent thing for Sundowns to do would be to let him, unless they're going to use him, would be to let him move on. But then Brocky would also have to prove to a club that he can still find his shooting boots or be a valuable member of the squad. And I think there were some signs of improvement in the last few games under Eric Tinkler, and Tinkler spoke more positively about him when you spoke to Tinkler. So I think there was signs of improvement, and if he's going to be free, it's certainly going to be much easier for him to find a club. So I think it would be good of Sundowns to let him go, and taking into account what Mazola also mentioned about the fact that they paid a lot of money for him. If there's one club who can afford to take a bit of a loss on a player, it's Sundowns. I would hope they would do that unless they're going to use it.
Yeah, let's look at where the need may be for a peak of his powers, Jeremy Brocky, Mazola. I mean, if he suddenly rediscovered his scoring touch, I mean, any team could do with him, but peak, Brocky is, SuperSport United, Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs type of player. Where's the need if he does decide to be a free agent and then, can sign up with anybody? Which of the big 4 or 5 do you think could do with these services?
It's a tough one. I think for Chiefs, obviously, for now, out of the equation because of the transfer ban, which they're obviously still trying to overturn. And there's possibly, there will probably be more delays in terms of getting that overturned, because there might be a backlog of cases with the Court of Arbitration for Sport because of the situation the crisis we're currently in. So for now, I think possibly rule out Chiefs, because I think if Chiefs are gonna sign, they'll probably sign if they lose Leonardo Castro, for instance, and maybe look for a like for like. But of course, if he's a free agent, even if he's 32, I mean, he's Jeremy Brocky, you start to wonder whether he could at least give you a season and you can test it out. I mean, if you're not gonna pay a transfer fee, the question obviously would be his personal terms. That would be a question, because I would imagine he was he was earning quite a big salary at Sundowns, given the transfer fee as well. And which, I mean, his agent has alluded before that one of the reasons it was so hard to get a club for him, it was because of his salary as well.
Right.
Because he prepared to at least maybe even meet Sundowns halfway in terms of paying that salary that he's on. So Chiefs, for now, I think, one should probably say park it, because they transfer ban there. And then you go to his former club. You go, first of all, I think you think Orlando Pirates, who have been interested before. I mean, Brocky was, offered to Orlando Pirates even in the time that he also went to Mamelodi Sundowns. He so happened to, from what I'm told, to choose Mamelodi Sundowns rather. I think it's because maybe the high transfer fee to SuperSport United and possibly the personal terms that were being discussed. But he was originally also offered to Orlando Pirates, who was, I think, because of the personal demands and the transfer fee being talked about, did not join Orlando Pirates at the time. The possibility of going to possibility of possibly going to Orlando Pirates, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think Orlando Pirates also have made a striker and a defender a priority, like we've been discussing. But I don't know if they'll sign a player that turns, I think he turns 33 next season, if I'm not mistaken. And what that would look like when they could possibly look elsewhere, maybe a younger player, or even pursue Yakuba Songne, who's they've been linked to in the past. Nabe, who plays in Ghana for Asante Kotoko, comes highly rated and is younger as well. They still have, obviously, they never used up the foreign sport, and they could quite possibly still have a foreign spot open to bring in a striker of his caliber. Then if you look at SuperSport United, maybe because of the past, it could be sentiments really if he were to go back there. But it's very difficult to see him playing for any of the so-called big three or big four. But there might be a need for him at a Cape Town City or
Wits. I mean, we mustn't forget Gavin likes his
I was going to throw in Vincent. My son is obviously didn't work out, and he's gone back to Scotland. So, and they have had horrible problems with strikers for a long time.
Opens the door possibly for Vets. Opens the door for Cape Town City. Maybe Ajax Cape Town. Should they get promoted?
Right.
So I don't think Brokey will be unwanted, especially if he's a free agent. I think he could be much sought after. The question is, how much would he be willing to accept in terms of personal terms, in terms of a monthly salary? I think that's the issue if Sundowns do let him go for free. Alternative.
Also where he is right now. I mean, he says he's very happy in Maritzburg. It's a very relaxed place. He likes it there. If he's free, he's comfortable there. Maritzburg are comfortable paying him whatever he needs to be paid. Then you could have a situation where he just stays in Maritzburg, he's out his career there in a nice, relaxed environment. There's not too much pressure on him at a club where he hasn't had much success so far, but where he seems to be a part of the squad and the team, and they've been doing very well. He hasn't been banging in the goals, but I think, like I mentioned, he was earning quite a bit of praise from Tinkler for his contribution to the team.
Right.
So I think it could be that he also opts to stay there if he can reach a deal with Maritzburg. I think, given the option between Maritzburg and sitting on the bench at Sundowns, Brockie would probably choose to stay at Maritzburg.
Of course, it makes sense. Well, let's see, because I'm guessing, like we've alluded to, the transfer economy is going to change a great deal after this whole coronavirus pandemic fiasco is sort of managed. I don't know if we can say put to bed, because it seems like it's going to be around a while, but it's going to change everything as we know it. Let's move on to a player who would love to be in the PSL, except I don't think anyone is actually interested. Vincent Enyama, I guess, was asked a question about plying his trade here, and he's got lofty ambitions. He thinks he could play for some of the top clubs here locally, except he's not been with a team for a while now. I mean, I think it's over a year. Highly rated keeper, played in Europe. You're out of a job for a year. No one's interested. I'm guessing that he's just doing what him and his agent and most players who are out of work would do, and kind of make one of those "come and get me, please."
Yeah, he's trying to get a club.
I just think he's barking up the wrong tree, though.
Look,
I mean,
had an abundance of caps for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. He's like you say, an experienced player, but maybe he's a bit too experienced in the sense of.
I mean, he's 37 years old. It just.
Oh, he's 37 years old, exactly. So if it's a massive gamble, I think, especially for a guy who's 37 and hasn't played for a club for a year, that's a huge gamble. And obviously, he still wants to play. He wants maybe one last paycheck as a player. You can't blame him and his agent for fishing for a club. But I do think it would be it doesn't sound like a very a sure bet in any way to bring Enyama. Enyama maybe 10 years ago, sure, but Enyama now I'm not so sure about.
I mean, do you see any clubs biting Mazola? I mean, in terms of local clubs, yes, he's got his sights set on the top tier ones, but is there any club that could, do with these services?
Maybe as a goalkeeper coach, but
ouch,
not as first choice keeper.
Right.
I mean, 37 years old, you'd wonder also with the experience that he has, where he's played in the past, just how much he would be, how much he would be asking for.
Right.
That should be, the alarm bells should go off when you consider that he hasn't had a club in the last year or so. You should start asking why. But having said that, I remember Benjani Mwariwari closer to sort of him calling time on his career. He landed in Africa and got a club at Chippa United. So you just never know. These things do happen. You find that if you've got a good enough agent who can be able to be a smooth operator, you might find yourself with a club. You just never know. So, but no, I don't think any clubs in South Africa should bite.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but good luck to him. Hopefully he can kind of end his career on a high. Who knows?
I mean, he was at Lille in France, and he was doing he was there for 5 or 6 seasons.
For sure. I mean,
and they let him go. I think if you offered him a job, maybe as a coach, even Mazola sort of said that as a bit of a joke, but I mean, if you offered him a job as a player on a year contract or something with an option then to become a goalkeeper coach or something like that could work.
Yeah, I mean, he spent 7 years at Lille, so he's a pedigreed keeper, but maybe just on the wrong side of 35. Let's admit to that. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Next piece of news is around. I mean, we've spoken about the defensive needs. You've also brought it up just now in terms of Orlando Pirates needing or wanting to go into the market for another defender, another striker. Xulu comes up as a name being bandied about. And oftentimes overlooked and underappreciated centre back. Do you think the links to Pirates are, kind of about time, for a player like Xulu to move on to a team like that?
Well, I think, he's had a very good season in Maritzburg. He's done well in a very solid defense that has improved as the season's gone on. Obviously, Rushin De Ruyck has outshone him a bit there in Maritzburg. But I think Sianda, it's a difficult one because he is a good defender and maybe a bit underrated, as you say, and maybe he could make a success at Pirates. I think, it's something that could happen.
Yeah.
He was at Chiefs as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
And it didn't really work out for him there, but it was a bit of a weird situation because Compella barely played him. It was a strange situation because, you could argue that he didn't really have much of an opportunity to show what he can do at Chiefs. And I don't know if there was something happening off the pitch or what, but I mean, I know that I spoke to his agent, Paul Mitchell, a couple of times, and, it was a very bizarre situation there.
Yeah, I feel like you're right, Jonty. There was something else at play during those days.
Brought in and then barely played. So
exactly.
I don't know. And if he's comfortable in Maritzburg, maybe it's better off for him to stay there if does he want to take a get? Because it is a bit of a gamble to go to Pirates and then it doesn't work out for you and then you're back in the wilderness again. So
Yeah,
I
but I
don't know.
mean, so are you saying that he might not be able to make the step up?
I think some players are just better at being good defenders at sort of lesser known clubs. Maybe you could argue the same about Compella. He's better being a good coach at a lesser known club than he was at Chiefs. So
Right.
same with players sometimes. I think maybe Sianda must stay at Maritzburg and just bet him down there. Although obviously with his talent, he's always going to be linked with moves to bigger clubs.
Right. Mazola, 28 years old, kind of, in his peak, in his prime. Is he an alternative? And if, Pirates are being linked with a Tyson, how far in that list or how far back would a Sianda Xulu be?
Look, I think if Orlando Pirates are prioritizing a centre back and they have a choice between going in hard and bidding for either Sianda or Tyson,
Mm.
me it's a no-brainer to get Sianda. He's 28 years old. He played for Mamelodi Sundowns, done very well, has earned praise from Arsene Wenger in the past. Played for Bafana, although he never became a regular. He went overseas, played for a couple of things in Russia. Only probably really came back because of racism issues and all of that, and just
Off the field matters, yeah.
Matters, and not because he wasn't playing. Obviously, also it was a huge transfer fee to go to Rostov in Russia, and I suspect also, like we've been saying about monthly packages and that, he would have cost Chiefs quite a bit, because I think when he left Rostov to come to Chiefs, he was still under contract. So that means Chiefs had to pull out all the stops to get him released from that contract. And remember when he arrived at Chiefs, he was a marquee signing.
Right.
He arrived there to replace Tifo Mashamaite. But like Jonty said, it was just a bizarre situation that he never got the game time that a lot of us thought he deserved, given the caliber of player that he is. But also there's been talk of his representatives trying to get him overseas.
Okay.
As you mentioned, 28 years old. He's played abroad before. And even what he's achieved at Maritzburg over the last 3 seasons, I think he possibly deserves another shout at trying to move abroad. Whether it will be to a prominent league or a prominent club, that's up for debate. Given that it just, you wonder if which club in a prominent league would take that chance,
Right.
But I respect Yanda very highly, and if you put a gun to my head and ask me, which of the 2 centre backs Orlando Pirates should go for, given age, given he would most definitely cost less because he would be for free. There is no option that I know of in his Maritzburg contract code, so you'd be a free agent come June or come the end of the season, whenever that is. And he's younger. He's younger, whereas Tyson turns 32 next season, I think. So even if you bring in Tyson, you're bringing in Tyson for the short term, really. But whereas Sianda you can sign Sianda and give him a 3-year contract with an option to renew it for 2 more years, because he can guarantee you that he will give you five more years in the next seasons. But I think from what I know, the priority is to try and move him abroad.
Okay, well, I guess, as far as suitors are concerned, coming in on a free in this current economy, as we've discussed, I don't think you'll have a problem as far as getting people on board. Gents, in terms of other stories that are maybe piquing your interest and things you're paying attention to and we can look forward to. Jonty, I know you're on leave at the moment, But any interesting news that you've kind of picked up as to where COVID-19 is kind of channeling the future of football?
Well, I mean, it's difficult because nobody quite knows when we're going to come out of lockdown. It's supposed to be April the 30th. Will they extend it again? Will they actually bring us out of lockdown? Even if they bring us out of lockdown, sport gatherings are very much banned.
Right.
So what kind of situation will we have in terms of playing football again? Will it be behind closed doors? Can that work here? It's too many questions, and it's very difficult to get any answers. Again, there's been absolutely nothing more that I've seen from the PSL in terms of what they're doing going forward. They seem to just be playing a wait-and-see game. And SAFA are also in a similar position. So when the lockdown ends, the two bodies will have to meet and make a plan to figure out what they're going to do. I think something to look out for is really, the longer this goes on, Mazola was mentioning Brocky playing at 33 next season. He might still be playing at 33 this season in October. The season's still going on. So it's such a crazy situation. It's unprecedented. And you just look at the example of how the disease spreads in other countries, and in this country it just looks like it's only just starting. If you believe that kind of thing, which means it could only peak September, December, and then we can't play then. So it's a difficult time. There's stories about transfers, and you look at the stories about transfers, you go, okay, but what season is that guy transferring there? When is his contract running out? It's just throwing everything a little bit out of kilter. And I'd really be interested to hear from the league whether they have any sort of plans in terms of what they're doing.
Mazola, sorry, Jonty, carry on.
No, maybe Mazola's heard more than I have, but there's just nothing coming out of the league in terms of what they're doing.
It's a bit hectic because, I was just reading a story this morning, Mazola, where a Japanese professor of infectious disease says he's very pessimistic the postponed Tokyo Olympics can open in 15 months from now. He's pessimistic that the Olympics won't be able to go on in 15 months. So if a disease doctor is saying that, and we all have these dreams of watching live sports in 2020.
Yeah. Look, it's crazy. Unless there's a vaccine.
Yeah.
Always going to debate or speculate about when all of this is going to end. I think the silence from the league, especially, at least SAFA, have been sending out some press statements now and again, even though it's almost sort of feels like it's a bit of repetition, but at least they're saying something.
Being active. Yeah, exactly.
If they what their plans are, which meetings they plan on having. But from the league side, you only ever get an update if you make a call to the CEO.
No, you check on the league's website. The last bit of news on the site was the 31st of March.
But you would love to hear something from the league about. I told you the birds were better.
This is part of the outtakes reel. Thanks.
To be on the show.
This is going to be on the outtakes reel. Carry on.
So I'd love to hear from the league via a statement, via something, instead of each individual journalist having to call the CEO for an update. You would at least like to, get a formal an official update now and again, not every day, not every week, but as long as the current situation carries on, you want to the football authorities, especially the league, because SAFA can send out all the statements and whatever, but ultimately they are not in charge of the league. And as far as I know, FIFA has not told all member associations to not play football at all. They've just told them to follow their government protocol. So if your government tells you can play behind closed doors, that will be the PSL's decision. I don't think it's SAFA's decision. That's why there was a back and forth between SAFA and the PSL about suspending the league initially, because FIFA had not issued a directive that all leagues across the world should shut down. So that left it to the PSL to decide when and how they want to proceed. But ever since that press conference, we've really not had any updates. Suffice to say, you only get 80 something if you personally call the CEO.
Okay, well, that's what it is. Hopefully there'll be more clarity as the days and the weeks go by. But yeah, like we say, a sense of leadership would be great from the league in terms of, SAFA are communicating. Yes, it's repetitive, but you're kind of seeing that they're responding to what is essentially that vacuum of information that is being left by the silence of some stakeholders. Jens, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts this week. We'll catch up again in a couple of days' time. Maybe then we'll have more things to kind of reflect upon. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts this evening.
So
Cool. And that's it for this week. As far as starting off the week with the Front Runner Football Podcast, we'll wrap things up later in the week when we do the Thursday edition. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. We wish you all the health in the world and your safety. Stay home, be productive, grow yourself, look after yourself, and we'll catch up with you in a few days' time. Peace.